We're up in the area of the farm where we have the sheep grazing, one of the paddocks. This is a new paddock right here that they're grazing, tall grass. And I wanted to kind of give somewhat of a progress report because we're just getting started with sheep. We only have 3 sheep. We have 2 rams and 1 ewe. And hopefully Kathy is either already pregnant or she's going to be pregnant soon. In the meantime, I wanted to say some things about what we've learned about grazing. The 2 main reasons that we got involved with raising sheep in the first place were to, 1, control the amount of grass that's here on the farm, and 2, to improve the quality of the soil. Now, some people may be surprised by that I didn't mention money. At some point we may sell some of our sheep if we get a big enough flock, but money was not the main concern. We're not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but the idea is to really to improve the quality of the soil with animals, and to help me so I don't have to be out here with the scythe every day cutting down tall grass. So the sheep help me a lot with that. And you could probably see that they do a pretty good job. So I wanted to talk about some different strategies that can be used for grazing. Now, kind of the old way of grazing was you would simply take your animals and put them on a piece of land and let them go to it. And they would choose what they want to eat and choose what they didn't want to eat. And as long as you had enough land, and you didn't have a lot of animals, that might work out okay. But in most instances it doesn't. It tends to degrade the land for 2 reasons. If you just let the animals go by themselves wherever they want, 1, it's more work for you, but 2, they're going to eat the grasses that they really like. So it's like eating ice cream all the time. And they're going to leave the stuff that is not as palatable to them, but might actually be good for their nutrition. So what happens? The grass that they really like doesn't get to flower and seed, so it doesn't reproduce, but the things that they don't like do flower and go to seed. And what happens is over time you wind up with a pasture of things that the animals hate to eat. And so you're selecting for things that you don't really want. So that strategy doesn't work very well. By the way, most of the people here in Nicaragua that have small farms, that's what they do. The larger farms here, the beef farms, they do divide their land. They have large land holdings, and they divide their land up into areas. Okay, those areas typically are called paddocks. And they'll move them, they'll have the animals eating in one paddock for a while, and then they'll move them to a different one, and what have you. But here, at least here in Nicaragua, there really isn't a big kind of concerted planned effort behind that. They simply look and they say, oh, well, looks like the grass is down, let's move them over here. So that is called rotational grazing. So rotational grazing is an interesting concept. Typically what a farmer will do is he or she will divide their farm up into like equal sections, and will move whatever animals they have in one section for a while, and then they'll move them to the next one, and they'll move them to the next one. The concept behind that is that you're giving time for the grass that was grazed to recover before you come back and graze it again. The kind of old way, if you just let the animals go wherever they want, they're going to come back to the good grass that they ate sooner than they should. They're going to eat that down, and that's going to eventually kill that grass. So rotational grazing kind of solves that problem. But now you have another challenge. And the next level is called Holistic Planned Grazing. That's Alan Savory's method. And that's looking at the farm as a whole. Not just that, oh, I have some cows and I need to put them out on the pasture. That's saying, I see the farm as an ecosystem. What can I do to improve the quality of this ecosystem by introducing these animals into it with the least amount of disruption for everybody else that is already living in the ecosystem? So that's a holistic planned grazing concept. And so you're not going to divide your farm up into, like, let's say 8 or 10, 12 different paddocks, all of about equal size. No, you're not going to do that. You're going to look at it and you're going to say, wow, you know, this one right behind Lena, turn around, Lena, and show the grass behind you. This grass is lush. I don't know, close to 2 meters. So this is an area where the grass flourishes. I could take you to another area where the grass is not as tall and it's not flourishing as much. So in an area where you have the grass flourishing, you're going to make the paddock smaller because the grass is both denser and the biomass is higher. In the area where the grass is not doing quite as well, you're going to make that paddock a little bigger, typically. And you may put more animals there because you may want a greater density of animals. It's kind of counterintuitive. You would say, well, you want to put the greater density where there's the greater density of biomass. And that may be true in the short term, but if you're thinking in the long term, what Alan Savory has shown is that it's better to put the greater density in the place where the grass is struggling, because that's where the impact of the animals is going to have its greatest effect. These different strategies for grazing, we're trying to use here. What we want to eventually get to is holistic planned grazing, and we're trying to use those techniques even now with just 3 sheep. Now, in terms of our strategy right now, I am keeping the 3 sheep in these small paddocks that I define, and I keep them here a little bit longer than I normally would probably want to under other circumstances. And the reason for that is that I want them to eat even the grass that they don't like. Okay. They're not too crazy. Here's some, you see these tufts of grass here. They eat that, but they're not too crazy about it. That's the last thing that they eat. And so I want them to eat some of the grass that they don't like, so that our pasture comes back, recovers in a more robust way. But we're also simply trying to clear out some areas that we can eventually define as paddocks. And the sheep are helping us to do that by clearing it out. I don't have to go up here with the scythe and spend a lot of time up here. The sheep simply do that. They get good food and they clear. So that's kind of what we're doing here at the beginning. And then I'm going to be going through these areas and say, wow, which ones are recovering well? Which ones are kind of struggling with the recovery? And let's see how we can define paddocks around that so we can kind of even things out and get a bigger thriving ecosystem. So that's kind of it. We have the traditional way of grazing. That is just, you let the animals go wherever they want and eat whatever they want. Then you have the rotational grazing, in which you typically define equal sized paddocks in your farm, and you move them on some sort of a schedule. And then there's holistic planned grazing, where you really are looking at the whole farm as an ecosystem, and you're asking yourself, now I'm going to introduce something new into the farm, like we're introducing sheep. How is that going to change the ecosystem? How is that going to disrupt things within the existing ecosystem? What can I do to minimize that? And then also, what can I do to make sure that the sheep are thriving within the ecosystem, and eventually everything evens itself out, and now you have a thriving ecosystem with both the sheep and the other animals and plants that are already here. So if you like this video, please click the like button. It helps me a lot, because that's what YouTube uses to determine if the video is popular and people want to see it. If you like the channel and you want to support the channel, please, the best way to do that is to subscribe to the channel. That helps me a great deal, and I appreciate your support. Lena appreciates it as well. And so we'll see you in the next video.